all of Jim Clark's many fans on Channel 35, but they'll hear his sonorous tones, so why don't you go ahead and start out with an oral report.
Thank you. Jim Clark, Director of Federal Relations for the Mayor's Office. Happy Nowruz.
Thank you, you too.
Three items.
I think Nowruz Mubarak. You too.
Wanted to report on three things. One, first, the Department of Energy has instituted a monthly reporting process for the energy efficiency and community block grants. There were 110 cities, including the City of Los Angeles, the National League of Cities, and the Conference of Mayors that opposed going to this monthly reporting, but they're doing it nonetheless. I just mentioned it in that it's going to add an additional administrative responsibility on our folks having to do this reporting, and they're putting out what the criteria will be for that. Second thing I wanted to mention was I just got an announcement this morning that if you remember a month and a half, 2 months ago, we had a joint presentation that was done in Van Nuys with LA County, partnering with our City Attorney's Office and also our Community Development Department on a grant program called Communities Putting Prevention to Work. And there were two parts to that. One was is a tobacco control and cessation program called Project Trust that the city attorney is applying for, and the other was a program called Project Renew on nutrition, physical activity, and obesity prevention with CDD. Well, I just got notice that LA County was awarded $32 million over a 2-year period of time for this. We're one of the partners with them. The tobacco cessation program for the city attorney's office was a $463,000 grant, and the obesity prevention was a $250,000 grant. I need to find out whether we're going to get all of that money, but I think given that they're getting $32 million for the county, that we probably are. So that's good news of what we'll be doing. We just heard about that. The last thing I wanted to mention is that last week we had the groundbreaking for Harry Bridges Boulevard. This was of the so-called shovel-ready projects. This was our largest one, a $22 million project. When it actually came in for the construction bids went out, the bid was awarded at $15 million. So there was a $7 million savings. Unfortunately, when you do the ARA funding, if your estimate is short, you have to make up the money yourself. If the estimate comes in over and the bid is underneath it, you have to basically give the money back. You can't just extend the
We're doing our part for the federal deficit reduction as well.
Yeah. So taking into account a 10% for change orders, we're basically what we've worked out an arrangement that is very favorable to us with Caltrans and with the MTA, whereby we are de-obligating $5.9 million of that funding that we will be giving back to MTA to give back to Caltrans for work on the I-5 freeway just north of where the 170 comes in to it. They'll be doing work there, which is an ARA project that's being funded.
And that came in over?
They've got more money. The project's larger than the amount of money that they got for it, so that they can use that money for that. In return for which, then, Caltrans will send to the MTA $5.9 million, which will then be transferred to the port to be able to use for projects that they're doing down at the port. So the good news on this is that we're doing this project, the Harry Bridges Boulevard. We'll be putting people to work, but we'll also be getting an additional $5.9 million that we can use in saving the city money to be able to use on other projects that they're doing in the port. Additionally, the Department of Public Works also had a contract for what they call bike-safe grates, so that when bicycles are running, unfortunately the grates were running this way, so if you run over with your tire, it goes into the grate, so they're replacing those with ones that work for that, and there's a savings of $1.4 million on that as well, and so we're doing the same thing. That money will be de-obligated, go to Caltrans.
Is the saving, how much was the overall project, sorry?
I want to say it was between $3 and $4 million.
Okay.
Closer to $4 million, I believe. So that money will be de-obligated, given to Caltrans for use on the I-5 freeway, and then will come back to us that we'll be able to use for additional work here and save us that money.
Okay.
And that's my report.
Great. Thank you. Mr. CEO?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Bill Kreitz in the CAO's office. In the interest of time, I'll make this brief. The good news is, in fact, it's all good news, actually, but we had a recent award from the Department of Energy on the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, and that's about $37 million. We've been carrying that as an award because through discussions with DOE and the Environmental Affairs Department, we've always pretty much known that we're going to get that, but EAD was formally notified on March 12th that we are getting that $36.7 million award for EECBG. We had no grant denials this week since our last meeting. There are report backs. Mr. Alarcon requested information from DWP on the Low-Income Weatherization Assistance Program grant application. DWP is here today. They've also responded in writing, which I have the response in your packages. Also, Mr. Parks requested at the last meeting a report back by the CAO on the reasons for 4 grant applications, 2 from CDD, 1 from the airports, and 1 from the Bureau of Sanitation, as to why those were denied by the grantor. Those departments or bureau have submitted their responses in writing, and/or I've included their responses here in your packages, and those departments are here, and bureau is here if there are any questions by the committee members today. Additionally, the CAO has begun to include this table at the front, this kind of, I guess you call it beige and green tables at the front of your briefing. Those are now available on the website along with the city portfolios, so that the public, when they go to the city's website, and I might remind those who are listening of the public that that's recovery.lacity.org. You can see that information, and it talks about jobs, and it talks about expenditures, and it talks about basically the finances for the ARA project. I discussed a little bit about the dashboard changes. I have that in your package as well. What I'd like to also bring up is, since last Friday's meeting, we have 2 applications that have been submitted, one by CDD, that was due on March 15th. That was for $15 million. That was discussed at last week's meeting. One by ITA for what originally was $10.3 million. They increased that to $12.1 million in terms of the request. That was submitted on March 15th by ITA as well. So we are now at 152 projects for which we've requested funding. Had we have gotten all the funding, it would be $1.517 billion. We have 84 grant awards for almost $592 million, and for between now and next week's committee meeting, March 24th, the CDD will be submitting 1 application for what's called the Northeast San Fernando Valley Bridges to Success Program for $500,000. And if there are any questions, the departments are here on the report back, so I will be glad to answer any questions.
Colleagues, before we go to the individual items 2 through 6, are there any questions? Mr. Alarcon?
What was the problem DWP had with regard to their reducing their number of jobs created?
You know, I'll have to go, well, for one thing, they had, initially, they had 140, 77 times 2, 154. I believe they had 154 jobs. The person who was completed that application did not understand that you're only supposed to show 1 set of jobs. He was showing 77 in both the created and the retained, considering them as, the same thing.
So it was doubled?
It was doubled. So
okay.
we took the 77 doubling out, and it went back to 77.
Okay, but there's a difference now of 1,700 positions. Is that correct?
This is the overall, the jobs report, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just speaking of that one DWP project. I'm sorry.
I thought the report reduced the total number of jobs created from 4,500 to 2,800.
Good morning, Anna Mae.
4,700 to 2,800.
Okay. Good morning, Anna Mae from the CEO. That would be item number 3 of the agenda. So,
I'm sorry.
if you want me to go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was reading, because this was on top. I was reading. You're right. It is item number 3.
Okay.
Never mind. I'll wait till
right.
then. I'll wait till then. Okay, great.
If there's nothing on item 1, then, colleagues, let me know. We have about a half hour. It was my understanding we were going to continue 3, Mr. Alarcon, for 1 week, so I don't know if you want to ask some questions ahead of time, because that report still wasn't ready. I think there had been communication about that, but if there's anything else you want to ask
Actually,
now, why don't we take that
because
up
the
first?
press was asking me about one project in Panama City that was supposed to generate 600 jobs, and it's a small apartment building. I know Mr. Clark is aware of it. And then the DWP thing, I just want to get a general sense of, and I want to say this up front. Having been in the job development, federal-funded job development world, it's very difficult to project some of these jobs. Particularly, for example, the handiworker program. You never, with the foreclosed on homes, the NSP money. It's going to be really hard for us to project how many jobs we're going to create because we don't know whether we're going to need window installers or carpenters for the flooring or whatever. So I recognize that. But there have been some glaring errors that I just want to know if we're, not to mention that we're working with a multitude of general managers and their staffs that all may review the application process differently. So are we getting a handle on that, and how accurate are our figures today?
As of today, Okay. As of today, I mean, we tried to be as accurate as we could based on what was provided to us by the department. I guess one of the problems that occurred is that around December 2009, OMB changed their guidelines in terms of counting jobs. The original formula stated that you could have a subjective assessment of the jobs, whereas without ARA funding, or with ARA funding, how many jobs would you have created? So if a project, for example, was 20 million, and the current funding that you have is 18 million, and you put 2 million of ARA funding, so the job is ready to go, you could count all of those jobs. However, in December 2009, OMB provided a different guideline where it stated you could only count the jobs that are directly funded with ARA. So the original assessment of 8,000 that we provided for you in our dashboards had to be recalculated, and so that came up with the 2,800 that we now have for you.
Okay. But we are working with the grant writers to ensure that they understand what the particular rules are for, because job creation is the focus of this whole grant, and if we can't project with some reasonability, that could hurt us down the road.
Yes, we have, because part of our quarterly reporting to OMB is to actually count the jobs, and we provided them with a clear way of counting those jobs based on hours work and funding.
Okay, then, since this matter is going to be continued, we'll take it up again next week, but I do appreciate that response. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, and I misspoke. The report is done. It just hasn't been agendized. It was just the CAO report that was agendized, so we'll correct that. That's why it has to be done a week from now, so we'll bring it up in a week. Okay.
I'm sorry, Councilman Garcetti, if I may add something also.
Sure.
Last week you have asked how many ARA positions have we used to retain general funded positions, and I gave an answer of 130 positions. There are 130 position authorities that were provided for the Surface Transportation Grant for Bureau of Street Services. As we were reviewing the department vacancies on ARA-related positions, we found that 80 of those 130 positions are currently vacant. And part of that is the department or the Bureau is, I guess, having changed their strategy in terms of how they're going to use the ARA funding. Rather than use the funding within 1 year, they're going to stretch it out for 3 years. And two main reasons is that, first, there are the layoff problem, maybe the potential 3,000 layoff, and there's also the potential loss of the gas tax money. So Bureau of Street Services is working with the mayor's office as well as with our office in terms of trying to find the right balance in terms of providing them with the position authorities and allowing them to fill those position authorities with the current funding that they have in place.
So it would be more accurate to say that they're taking approximately 50 jobs and trying to stretch that over 3 years to save those for 3 years?
Well, the goal right now is like if we lost the gas tax money in fiscal year 10-11, we have 80 vacancies that could absorb those positions that may be laid off because of the loss of the gas tax. So rather than, using all of the money in 1 year, we may prolong it for 3 years, which is allowed by the grant.
Okay.
Is that going to result in fewer layoffs or more layoffs?
That would result in actually fewer layoffs.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, presumably it's fewer layoffs because we might recover 3 years from now, but it's also a gamble. I mean, we could put it all into 1 year. It'd be fewer layoffs this year, I think, Mr. Alarcon, but then they could come down a year later with a large number of layoffs. So they're looking to bridge this entire kind of downturn that we're estimating to be a 3-year
Yeah, and the
downturn.
hope is that in 11-12, we will get back the gas tax if we do lose it in 10-11.
And everybody listening, don't forget to write your state legislators to tell them not to take our gas tax. And good luck with that. Anyway, we're going to go, colleagues, I would move number 2, 5, and 6 on consent. Those are coming to council. Unless you want to call those out, we have cards on number 4, and we can talk about number 4. I think 5 and 6 can be discussed in that context. But if there's no objection to that, is that all right? Okay. So we'll move without objection 2, 5, and 6. And on number 4, I'd like to take the cards first. Jim Watson, if you'd like to come forward. And Carrie Rogers will follow. And then Ken Phillips. Come on down. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carrie Rogers. I'm the Vice President of Business Assistance with the LA County Economic Development Corporation. And it's my pleasure to have the opportunity to give you a little bit of an overview of the layoff aversion program for the City of LA WIB. We'll be coordinating with the WIB and our funded economic development partners, which include the VEDC, the Valley Economic Alliance, and California Manufacturing Technology Consulting, which are with us today. And we'll be working with relevant agencies to assist in potential layoff aversions for businesses in the city's service delivery area. Since 1995, the LAEDC has helped to either attract, retain, or create almost 157,000 jobs with an economic impact of $7.7 billion. The LAEDC has also recently contracted with the Celico WIB, the Pacific Gateway WIN, and the SASPA WorkSource Center to provide these layoff aversion services in those areas of the county. This proactive outreach program conforms with the recently approved LA County Strategic Plan for Economic Development, which calls for increased proactive outreach to help retain and expand businesses of all sizes, with an emphasis on those that are at risk of closing, leaving, or being wooed away. Our outreach will be intensive for at-risk businesses, and our teams will work also with the City of LA Mayor's business team on referrals for projects that the team can assist with. We will conduct customer satisfaction rates and expect to be able to provide a 90% customer satisfaction. And in addition, the LAEDC will also conduct an industry cluster analysis report and occupations, which will give detailed information on those jobs that can be provided for in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your great work on this. Appreciate it very much.
Hi, my name is
Oops, sorry, don't worry. Go ahead.
I'll get 2 minutes. Hi, my name is Jim Watson. I'm the VP of Operations for California Manufacturing Technology Consulting. We're a nonprofit consulting organization based in the South Bay. Our service area is from Fresno to San Diego, and we serve almost 600 or 700 manufacturers a year, of which over 325 of those were in LA County, most of which were in LA City. And we provide technical services, improvement planning for manufacturers, and I can tell you, having touched on so many of those, they are in dire need of assistance. And I think this program here and the collaborative that's being put together will greatly assist these manufacturers who need help, technical assistance, in getting themselves in a competitive position to grow their businesses, and in this case, maybe just to sustain their businesses at this point, and hopefully at some point in the future, put programs in place that will make them more aggressive in the marketplace, both domestically and international. So we have a broad range of services we can provide them, from quality to speed to market to growth services, and so I think as part of this collaborative, we feel very, very good about being able to penetrate more manufacturers than we would normally as a result of this initiative. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, sir. And Ken?
Thank you. I'm Ken Phillips with the Valley Economic Alliance. I'm the Vice President of Workforce and Jobs. We have been working in the San Fernando Valley with the 70,000 businesses for well over 12 years in collaboration with the local LACCD community colleges and the adult schools, the WorkSource California Centers and Employment Development Department. In fact, many of us are co-located together in order to go ahead and provide a better delivery of services. Some of the programs that we have been delighted about to go ahead and provide new types of jobs, specifically in the green area, is the new energy audit classes that we have started. Additionally, some additional solar classes, and very much in a collaboration of a lot of different types of green jobs and helping local businesses turn green as well, too. We're also delighted to go ahead and assist with this LADC program to go ahead and help local businesses be able to go ahead and grow and sustain in the Los Angeles region. In fact, part of what we're going to be doing is the marketing piece to go ahead and do the outreach to some of the businesses that really need the need of services at this particular time as well, too. Part of the strategy will be over a period of 18 months, and we'll be conducting a variety of business workshops and, in addition, Business Connections 101 as well, too. And we'll be doing that with all of our partners.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. If the department can come forward. And colleagues, we went on consent with 5 and 6. I just wanted to point out what they were as well. We actually, Mr. Science and I were yesterday in Hollywood with the Secretary of Labor, Hilda Solis, was here in our building in East Hollywood, where we have one of our family source centers. And she was looking at the 3.6, was it? $3.6 million grant of WEA funds. This ARA fund that we have here today, between these three actions, we've got on number 5, we passed $7 million. It's very exciting because Mr. Wesson knows this, and when I used to chair the committee that he chairs, one of the things that we did was I try to identify sectors and do job training in sector areas. This was $2.3 million for healthcare, which was the first sector that we did, $1.65 million for green and energy technology, $500,000 for hospitality, $400,000 for financial services, $650,000 for logistics and transportation, and $950,000 for manufacturing. I think manufacturing and financial services we added, but it's nice to see, 6 years later we identified these sectors, we're executing, we're actually doing it, and so congratulations to everybody who's been working on that, and these ARA funds will definitely go to work at a critical time. The number 6 was Educational Bridge Training Program, and this is $3.3 million for 4 different programs that are at Southeast LA, Wilshire Metro, Hollywood, and Chatsworth, looking again at ways that we can get some people back to work, and partnership initiatives for job training as vocational bridge training programs. So both those, and feel free to talk about them, colleagues, and any questions that we have. But on number 4, why don't you ask us, and I know one of the big questions everybody here is going to have on the 5 employees that are occupying general fund authorities that are subject to layoff. Those are from within CDD, and you're asking to be transferred to this, or from outside of CDD?
From outside CDD. What we have been doing is moving from general fund to special fund. So with the ARA dollars, we're going to do a total of 13 for this particular grant. We moved 8 already from general fund to special fund ARA, and we're looking for an additional 5 and moving them from general fund to special fund.
So they'd be management analyst 2s from other departments in the general fund?
Predominantly human services agencies, so we keep the talent, referencing our other conversation about keeping the talent within the city.
Well, thank you. As we look at layoff aversion, it's hitting us here in our city as much as we're looking at trying to do that with the private sector. So, and Mr. Alacon?
You were both speaking at the same time, so I wasn't clear. You said the 5 additional positions are coming from CDD or other departments, or outside the community?
No, from other departments. These are currently general
They're all
fund
city
folks.
employees?
Yeah, on the layoff list specifically.
Okay.
And some of them already have been given notice, so we'll be able to retain them within
So
the
it's a total of 13 jobs retained?
Exactly.
Okay.
In addition to other ARA dollars that we've been using to retain jobs within the
Thank you.
Thank you. If we could add, if the CEO can add that to the list too of what we're tracking, so it's not just the surface transportation dollars, but there's 13 CDD, which makes me also wonder, are there other departments that are doing this, so that we can add that to the total to get an overall number?
Yes, there is a due date from the departments today to actually provide us all of that information.
Great.
So CDD actually provided it yesterday already.
Okay, super. Anything you want to add on the three things today?
Sure. Greg Irish will give the overview.
Mr. Chair, this is actually $2.6 million that we normally would not have been receiving. It was governor's discretionary money. We convinced the governor, because of the unemployment rate in Los Angeles, that this was something we needed. We developed what is called a proactive strategy now for layoffs. We have a reactive strategy where we'll use these employees when we're notified of layoffs. We dispatch a team that goes out and negotiates a plan on how to handle layoffs in the private sector, and of course we're going to have to deal with layoffs in the public sector. In this particular case, we also set aside money for the partners that you just heard from to do sort of a proactive sort of strategy where we go out and try to predict layoffs before they happen, put them together with CDD and the other financial resources the city has to try to figure out how we can prevent layoffs in terms of financing businesses that are in distress. So we think this is a good approach, and we're totally in favor of using the $2.6 million, both to use the capacity of city employees to help us with the reactive strategy and using the private sector to help us with the proactive strategy.
Mr. Alco?
Yeah, the Warren Act requires certain employers to notify well in advance of potential layoffs.
Right.
Does this include that group, or is it other? Could you describe, first of all, those that are bound by the Warren Act and those that are different that we may target?
Right. So those bound by the Warren Act is traditionally the private sector, not the public sector side of the equation, and it's for those that have 50 or more employees that are going out. So to give you an indication, in the first 6 months, we've received about 17,000 total employees affected under the Warren notice.
The requirement is they notify 90?
They notify the Workforce Investment Board and 90
days in advance?
60 days in
60 days in advance, okay.
In advance. So traditionally, we've had a small team that has worked on orientations. So far this current year, we've done about 3,000 individuals have come to our orientations, and we try to do the connections between them and our WorkSource system. And a number of them do take advantage of our WorkSource system as well as the EDD, but it's really about providing them information. What we've changed, and with the addition of this grant, is that we're going to be able to go much, much deeper and actually do follow-up to all those that come to the orientations to make sure that they are receiving services. Also be able to provide the information directly to the individual rather than just holding mass orientations. We'll be able to do a lot more one-on-one currently. But the big side of our attention in the next 6 months is going to be on the public sector side of the equation, where we're talking about 4,000 potential layoffs within the city. There's an equal, if not greater, number of potential layoffs within LA Unified. Superior Courts have already notified, I think, about 400 to 500, and with another 1,000 potential in another 6 months. So this 9,000 potential public sector employees hitting the marketplace is going to really be devastating internally in terms of the local economy, but personally to each one of those individuals.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? If not, we'll go ahead and approve the motion here. The motion or the report? Mr. Clerk, I think it's a... Do you have general comment? Sir? Okay. On item number 4. Thank you. And if you want to come forward for general public comment on this meeting, Mr. Sachs?
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. I have the information, but I don't have it in front of me. But there was a very interesting article in a local publication. It's called the Beach Reporter, and it involved pension plans in the beach cities. And it stated in this article that the cost of pensions for the state of California has risen 2,000% in the last 10 years. And during that time frame, most of the council that's seated here in this chambers when they have the meeting has been in position.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. This is for economic recovery and reinvestment. If you could give us general comment on something we have jurisdiction over. Thank you.
Part of the economic recovery would be predicated on how you handle paying the pensions.
We have no authority over that in this committee. That's actually for Personnel Committee. We have zero authority over that. So if you could speak to something that we have authority over, sir.
I would think that you'd want to have some kind of plan on handling that 2,000% increase. Or does the Economic Recovery Committee have and Reinvestment Committee have an idea on how to raise the recovery for the city of LA by approximately 1,000% to meet half of the increase of the pension plan increase.
I'm sorry, sir, and I say this very respectfully. That's actually a Budget and Finance or Personnel Committee report. This is specifically on the federal ARA funds. That's the only thing we have jurisdiction over here, and that's unfortunately out of order today. So I look forward to hearing that in our general public comment, but I'll have to cut you off. I'm sorry, Mr. Sachs. Thank you. All right, that will close our general public comment on our Economic Recovery and Reinvestment Committee. This meeting is adjourned.